And we can all agree that, yes, if we say that using of cane is a corporal punishment, because of what? It will give pain to the student or a pupil, to the extent of getting him enjoyed or getting her injured. Also, any act that goes against our norms. Our norm is to train our children to become acceptable and useful members in the society. So any punishment you applied that will not change that person you are given the punishment to be acceptable and useful member in the society is also considered as a corporal punishment, according to one of us here. Another one is punishing students in a hard way. Yes, in our schools, we have the habit of asking our students to catch your ears. In the process of catching ears, some students will start bleeding. You see, in the process of changing the behavior of your child, you are pushing the child to start bleeding, which may be in the absence of a sick bay or a first aid facility in the school. It will lead to a very serious problem in the school because of that action. So anything that goes beyond our norms is considered as a corporal punishment. So let's look at the slide now. Okay, on the slide is saying that corporal punishment is any punishment in which physical force is used and intended to cause some degree of pain or discomfort. Involves hitting, smacking, slapping, spanking children with the hand or with an implement like pen, whip, stick, belt, shoe, wooden spoon, etc. All these are some of the implements we use in what? In punishing our students. But it can also involve, for example, kicking, shaking, or throwing children, scratching, pinching, burning, scalding, or post injections. This is the definition of corporal punishment and some kind of corporal punishment as well as some implement used in applying the corporal punishment. Next slide. Stop. We have another question here. The question is asking, is corporal punishment prohibited? And I want to hear a response from you. Where is the mic? Pass the mic. Who wants to respond to the question of the slide?
Then run out of the school.
Is prohibited within 1 week. Depending on how the teacher leads that particular punishment.
Okay. You are, because we want to know whether if corporal punishment is, we all agree, we have another contribution of 4 or 3 definitions of corporal punishments. And we agree with the definition on the slides and the definition from the contributors. So now we have another question asking, is corporal punishment prohibited? If it is yes, then why do you say it is yes? If it is no, why do you say no, corporal punishment is not prohibited?
The life of the student sometimes. It influences the life of the student. It will change the life of the
Okay. Changes behavior.
The life of us.
Changes whole life. Oh, behavior. Changes behavior. Why? Please, a round of applause for her. BAG, violence against children, BAC. So, like she said, corporal punishment is prohibited because it's a violence, or it creates violence. Because we had a scenario, a teacher flogged a learner to the extent of removing one of his organs, a very sensitive organ, eye. So the family of that child insisted that they must take revenge to the teacher, and that causes a very conflict between the community and the school community. So it causes violence. So we need to know. Yes, let's push ahead. So let's see from the slides, please. Are you ready? Yes, no, we have all your options. Then continue. Continue. So, according to this paper, the paper tried to relate the last question asking about the prohibition of corporal punishment in our school. Then, corporal punishment is prohibited as a sentence for crime under Article 192 of 2 of the Children Act 2001. Since 2001, this act of children prohibited the application of corporal punishment in our schools. So I believe this slide now clears the air that corporal punishment is prohibited because we have an act that prohibited it in our schools. And, no child offender should be subjected to corporal punishment. Is it? No child offender, on no account that a corporal punishment should be used to any child that offend rules and regulation of a school. Next slide, please. Okay, our third of the paper is the effect of corporal punishment on retention, transition, completion. So the paper tried to look at some critical education indicators and relate it with corporal punishment and see how this corporal punishment affect these education indicators. So we have what we call GER, gross enrollment rate. Also we have net enrollment rate, we have completion rate and transition rate. If an education system can be able to achieve this one optimally, then we can say that that education system is moving well, because the GER will tell you the accumulative ability of your state to give access to your people to access education or to enroll into school system. Then the next is trying to filter by official age of learners that enroll into school system, whereby the completion rate will try to tell you how or what is the percentage or what is the ratio male-female that were able to complete a certain level of education. In Nigeria, we have experienced different type of education. Like before we were born, some of our parents attended 7-year primary education. And Later on, we have another one which is 6334 system of education. And now, we are using 934 system of education. So, this indicator, completion rate, will try to depict to the policy makers the number or percentage of enrollees that were able to complete that level of education. Let's say basic education, let's say senior secondary school education and tertiary education. Another indicator is transition rate. Because the education system we have in Nigeria is a flow kind, there need to be a flow, let's say from basic education to senior secondary school education to tertiary education. If you relate it to 934 system, if you were able to complete, were you able to transit into the next level of education? So this indicator will tell you. So we try to compare these 4 critical education indicators with the application of corporal punishment in our schools. Next slide. But before we compare, we need to have a background information on what is all about these indicators we mentioned. Gross enrollment rate is the total enrollment in specific level of education regardless of age. This indicator is computing the number of enrollees regardless of their official age. Because in the education system, we have official age of enrollment. So GER gives information of the enrollees regardless of their age. Then what is the purpose of this indicator? The purpose is to show the level of participation in a given level of education. How often? What is the rate of your pupils' participation in a certain level of education? Then this is the calculation method, whereby you use formula to calculate. You divide the number of pupils enrolled in a given level of education, regardless of age, by the population of age group, which officially corresponds to the given level of education, and multiply the result by 100. What is the data you need to compute this? No, we are sharing the hard copy. It will come around, so don't worry. Also, we are going to send soft copies to your emails. Bashar is sharing the hard copy. It will come around. So, data required. What data do you need to compute this kind of indicator? If the total enrollment for a given level of education, population of the age group corresponding to the specified level. In Nigeria, since 2006, we don't have census. So, because of lacking the census data, you need to know, or you need to have the projected population data. To what? To enable you to compete, because you need to have a specified population of the age group corresponding to the specified level. Because you cannot compute 2019-2020 gross enrollment rate with the population data of 2006. You need to make some projections. A specific formula was there on how to make the projections. Then if you can make the projection, then you can now use the formula and get your GER. Then how do you disaggregate? Like the UNICEF consultant, when he's giving the overview, he made mention that this GAPE project is for girls, but it's another also a supplement to men, So maybe the donors that fund GEF3 project in our state wants to know how many number of female child, what is the GER of female child. So if you didn't disaggregate it, then you will not respond to that question. Interpretation. A higher GER generally indicates a higher degree of participation. So if you have a very higher GER, it is interpreting that yes, there is a very higher access of your people into the education system. The quality standards. GER at each level of education should be based on total enrollment in all types of school. You cannot use a data of primary 1 to 5 to compute GER. No. You must have a data of primary 1 to 6, JSS 1 to JSS 3 as for junior secondary school, then SS 1 to SS 3 as for senior secondary school. Then limitations. The limitations to this GER is that due to the inclusion of overage and underage pupils, because of early or late entrance and great repetition, in this case, a rigorous interpretation of GER needs additional information to assess the extent of repetition, late entrance, and etc. It is the habit of our community. SUBEB and Ministry of Education will officially announce that the academic calendar will start on this date. Maybe the Department of Social Mobilization will even conduct enrollment drive campaign to our communities to mobilize and stir people that yes, a new academic session is starting on this date. But despite all this effort by government, let's say the academic calendar starts on February, a parent or guardian may decide to bring his child for admission around May, June. After the academic calendar has commenced since February. So these are some of the limitations of this GER. We have very late entrance. Also there was a repetition. So next slide, please. Okay, net enrollment rate. Net enrollment rate is the filter of GER. GER, it keeps total without filtering who is overage, who is underage. So this one is trying to capture the total data of officially aged pupils or students that undergoes into a certain level of education. We have specific official age for any system of education. Like now, if I may ask, what is the official age of JSS? I believe most of us here are teachers from secondary schools. So can you tell me what is the official age of JSS? It's a grouping, it's a range. 12 to 13. No, JSS 3. Yeah. 12 to 15 years. So if you are computing NER, any student who was enrolled, who is below 12, you put him aside. Any student who is above 16 will not be participated. Because you are now what? You are netting, you are filtering. From the word net usually filter, to filter something which is not belongs to a group. So you need to know the official age of any system of education before you start computing this kind of indicator. So what is the purpose of this indicator? The purpose is to show the extent of coverage in a given level of education of children and youth belonging to the official age group. You see, official age group corresponding to the given level of education. Then this is the way you calculate. You divide the number of pupils or students enrolled who are of the official age group for a given level of education by the population of the same age group and multiply result by 100. So even if you make the projection, you need to compare your enrollment data with the projection data based on that official age group. Then you multiply the result by 100 and it will give you the rate. This is the formula. Next. What is the data required to compute this kind of education indicator? Enrollment by single years of age for a given level of education, population of the age group, corresponding to the given level of education. This is the data you need to compute this indicator. Then, where are you going to source the data to compute this indicator? You need to refer to your school register. You need to have a school survey. That's, for our own case, annual school census. I believe you have information about annual school census. Oh? In the case of JSS, they have red questionnaire, red color, and SS, they have green color. So we send these forms to you whenever it is time. So such kind of forms or such kind of surveys are the one you use as a source to compute your NER. Then you need to disaggregate it also to give you information of male and female, then the total. Then quality standard, NER at each level should be based on enrollment at the relevant age group in all types of school and education system. Limitations. The limitation in this regard, it applies to the tertiary institutions. Because in tertiary institution, you cannot set an official age group. Yes, if you go to any tertiary institution, you will see course mates, someone who is even a mate to the father of another mate. We have this kind of, so it has a very good limitations in tertiary institutions. Next slide. Then another important indicator that we need to have at hand is this transition rate. Government and international donor partners are doing an effort to see that our children transit from primary to JSS, from JSS to SS. Year in, year out, we do have kind of this problem, and most especially to our girl child. If we can conduct, or if we can show a data of transition, you will see that it affects mostly the girl child around JSS to SS, because some of them during that level they were removed and given hand to marriage. So government is now advocating for us, advocating to us that as a focal teachers, we need to double effort to make some sensitizations at school level to sensitize the SBMC, the parent and the students themselves that you need to transit from one level to another level. That is what they call re-entry policy. On the re-entry policy, we have a dialogue that, okay, in most of our communities, the moment a girl attains the age of 16, 17, 18, her parent may start deciding, okay, I want to give my daughter to marriage, I want to take her to her matrimonial home. Then on the re-entry dialogue is a discussion on, okay, even if a girl was given to marriage during her own education, she should be what? She should be continue. She should be what? She should be continue with her own studies. So you see, in this one we should have some conflict from either the husband or the community or the parent themselves. So what we use it now as a focal point to us to start making some enlightenment, sensitization, to educate parents and SBMC that even a girl was given to marriage, she can still continue. Even though the re-entry dialogue is on, but I believe, like the UNICEF consultant has said during his presentation, that we are going to be having, getting engagement with you, so that whenever we need anything, we just gather, we just invite you like this and have discussion. Next slide. Then, what is the data required for this transition? Enrollment in final